It ain't much, but we trying to keep it clean. So we're out here working on the Skylark again today. In the last video you saw we got the 480 stuffed in this thing, and we got the fuel system knocked out. Just have to make two little lines to the tank and wire it up, which, speaking of wiring, that's what we're going to try and get knocked out at least a good portion of today. So if you haven't been keeping up, this is an aluminum 5.3, and then like I said, got a 480 behind it, and we're going to be running it off the HOLLEY Terminator system that originally was out of the RX-7. And this is actually the Terminator X Max that I just pulled out of jack. We're going to put just a regular TX back in jack because he doesn't need transmission control, where this thing does. So we've got that bad unit that we need to find a spot for, and we got all these little electrical serpents we got to find places for. It's not as bad as it sounds. We just have to start off with figuring out where we want to run things. Now, I was debating on just putting it here, calling it a day. Not really super sure about that, because I also am a fan of a clean firewall, so we might try to run it inside the car and get it mounted somewhere in there. Maybe on the kick panel or something. But if I do that, I need to run back to my place and get a hole saw bit, because our harness is not going to fit through this. Shoot, we got just a couple plugs alone that won't fit through that, let alone stuffing them all in there together. So this is our transmission harness. That plugs into the computer there. This runs down, plugs into the side. This is the speed sensor, turbine speed sensor, so this will be the front one. This will be the rear one. Here's our main power to the ECU. This will go straight to the battery, which I might put in the back of the car. Might not, but we're not going to be running any inner fenders, so I'll probably end up putting it in the back. And then all this is the engine harness, which it is not as bad as it looks. It looks bad, I know, it looks bad, but it's not that bad. Trust me. Just trust me. It's not that bad. This one we can unplug for now, because we're not going to be running any inputs, outputs on this, I don't think. Oh, yeah, I forgot that on the RX-7, for the boost control, I had it tapped into the map sensor wire, so I'll have to cut that. The last three things in here, if I can get them out of here one-handed, we got our injector harness, we got our little 3.5-inch screen, and we got our O2 sensor. So I think just to try to keep things kind of clean, I'll probably run the harness through the firewall and put the computer in the car. This is a setup that would almost benefit from using a stock ECU, because it's just a cruiser, you know. It's a basic 5.3 with a cam, intake, headers, and a 4L80. So we can just figure out the tune it needs and just leave it. It's not something that's going to need the Terminator where we can consistently make changes, stuff like that. But that's not where we're at. And this is what I had laying around, so this is what we're going to use. So I think I'm probably going to have to run back to my place, I think, get a hole saw bit, because I don't know if he has one here, and then we'll pop the intake off, run a hole through the firewall behind that where everything stays kind of hidden, and then we can start mounting the computer. You can see we got tons of room here, because right about here is where it would need to come through the firewall, give or take. So we got all this. So I might put it either up under the dash or on the kick panel here or something like that. We should have spots for it, is what I'm saying. We should have plenty of spots for it. So the other thing that I want to try to get done today, just in an effort to kind of save a few bucks and get this thing to where once it fires up, I could actually move it around. I'm going to cut this drive shaft down, and then I'll take it over to my place and weld it up. It won't be balanced or anything like that, but just for moving it around, it will do the trick just fine. All right, ran back to my place real quick, picked up this 2 1/8-inch hole saw bit. We should only need a 2, but I don't have a 2. I got a 2 1/8. So I'm gonna pull the intake off here, disconnect this fuel line, which should still be loose, yeah. And then probably, you might be able to see it down in that flatter section right in here. I'm gonna pop a hole through here, and you know, we might get lucky and be able to feed the ECU side through this way instead of crawling under the dash and feeding it individually through going to the outside. Because doing it that way kind of sucks. Not gonna lie. So let's get this thing pulled off real quick. Got the hole cut. I gotta cut some of that insulation out of the way. And we're not gonna have a repeat of the S10. Covered the intake ports this time. I see this guy. You wanna walk us through what your plan is?
Somebody once told me if you heat them up, it'll go right through it.
Well, you got something.
Yeah, all that insulation in there is...
Oh, grab it, pussy. Come on, you burnt yourself enough, you should be immune to it now.
Right there is all the insulation. So basically, if we tore the heater out, we wouldn't have to keep drilling.
Yeah.
Oh, you gonna tear the heater out?
Well, I'm gonna have to now that there's a hole through it. I mean, you're gonna have to drill through like this much.
There is now, because I see daylight.
Do you?
Well, I see the inside of the car.
Huh. Yeah, fuck, we can make that work. Might end up just screwing the ECU right to this box. Fuck it. Although this thing's kind of just held in here with hopes and dreams right now. Oh well. You had a handmer.
What?
Said you were using your handmer.
Yeah, my hand burnt. Ow!
Scared to reach up here.
What?
Said I'm scared to reach up here right now.
Oh, I'm done. Just the end caught my hand.
Yeah, that's kind of what it sounded like.
Yeah, it hurt.
Yeah, that's kind of what it sounded like.
Right on a freaking knuckle.
Ugh. Got to remember to put this relay back on that plug, and then we're good. So, note to self, note to future self, note to you guys, in the HOLLEY instructions it says to use a 2-inch hole saw and feed this all through, but obviously if you use a 2 1/8 you can feed just the short side through. Makes it a lot quicker, because all this stuff takes, my god, like 3 years to get it all through, especially by yourself. This is IAC. This should be TPS. This is, before I look at the thing, coolant temp. Yep. Which I meant to grab another sensor for this. This thing got destroyed, but we'll just, you know, honestly, it'd probably still work, I bet. You are fuel, no, you are intake air temp. You are fuel pressure, which we're not gonna need either of those for right now. And just like that, our engine is all wired up. The only thing I have to do is extend the cam sensor over here and swap the two outside wires for it. Just because we're going from a 24X harness to a 58 4X engine. So we got to swap these two outside wires, which I think I am going to get the little extension harness. Just because, you know, there's a good chance that maybe down the road I pull this harness off this engine, put a stock ECU on it, and use this on something else. I don't want to cut and extend that cam harness when it would work perfect right here. And those extension harnesses are pretty cheap. So I'm going to get that. I'll use that to swap those, and then that plugs in down here. And then I have to plug in the crank sensor, which the crank sensor wiring is the same. We're all good there. I don't have a spot for the O2 sensor yet because I don't have an exhaust on this thing, and these shorty headers don't have a bung on them. So that takes care of our engine harness. Now we can find a spot inside for the computer, and then probably maybe punch another hole for the transmission harness, because how long was this? Yeah, we'll play that one by ear. Yeah, I might run it across and pop a hole down next to the tunnel or something, kind of up by the front. Okay, we are back in the car. Now we're trying to find a spot for this thing, and it's almost kind of deceptive, because as big of a car as this is, there's not a ton of room. But I think what we might do is just screw this thing right to the bottom of this heater box and call it a day. I think that's what we're gonna do. No reason to overcomplicate it. What do you guys think? Just bam, run a couple self-tappers in there, call her a day. And then we can still see all of our diagnostic lights at night. Because these things are so bright, we'll throw a piece of electrical tape over it. Maybe we'll do it this way. I'd rather see the lights and just have to throw some tape over it than to see all the wires hanging out. So, yeah, that's what we're gonna do. Just gonna zip, zip, put that thing up there. A couple of these bad boys, and be done with it. Get these plugged in beforehand, just to make sure that we know everything's gonna be all kosher and happy. Oh yeah, oh yeah, we got room. Can we get the gun in there though? That's the thing. Can on this front one. We might be able to for that back one. Hello, there we go. Whoa, caught it though. This is kind of a tough angle. Alright, maybe it helps if I unplug this again, take the weight off of it, get you zip-zapped on in there. Yeah. Come on. Come on. God. Oh, my arms are tired. I got one. Come on, arms. Jeez. Who put this here? Who thought this was a good idea? There we go. We got it. Run you out of the way. Keep you tucked up. Well, would you look at that? Looks like it came from the factory like that. You know, good old GM build quality. All right, so now we'll just pretend we didn't see anything in there. All right, so what is next on our agenda? We can plug in the transmission harness and plug in the main power harness that's going to run along this sill here. The transmission plug, ooh, I might see about, I don't know where to run it. But somehow we need to get under this. Can probably get away with popping it up here somewhere. I think we've got some good distance between the trans tunnel and the top of the case there. And I should be able to get the drill through there. Pop a hole saw in there. Pop a hole saw, that's what they call me. And then run everything over. I think it should be good like that. Let's do it. All right. Yeah. I've been watching too much Indiana Jones lately. All right, here is this, and this goes right there. Yeah, goes right there. It goes right there. This goes right. God dang it. This goes right there. Yeah. Jeez. Nope. Here. Stop it. Stop it. Nice and easy. Nice and easy. Nice and easy. Nice and easy. Stop it. Nice and easy. Ah! You're over here. We'll follow this. Don't touch anything. Don't touch anything. Now, our transmission harness. Don't touch it. You'll ruin it. Okay, got the transmission wiring all plugged in. Just got to pop the hole in the tunnel to run that through. And then I got distracted and spent debatably way too much time getting this dash pad in place. But now it is all secured. It's not going anywhere. And we're looking pretty dang good. Just throw some seats and some carpet in this thing and woo! We got ourselves a hot rod. So I'm going to grab the drill. Oh, my knee is so stiff from sitting in that floor all weird. So I'm going to grab the drill and start punching a hole through that tunnel. Hopefully. So I could use a much smaller hole saw bit. But I didn't bring one. I almost did. Kind of wish I would have now. But yeah, I didn't bring one. So this is what we're working with. It'll be alright. I guess it will look kind of silly having such a huge hole for just that small wire when we're all done. Well, this and the shift cable might run through there. Who knows? Because I don't know if the shifter's going to be back here, if it's going to be up there. I don't know where I'm going to put it yet. Like, looking at the tunnel, the most convenient spot would be right there. It's kind of all uniform. But, you know, we'll just have to see. But I kind of don't want to use this bit anymore. I might be able to fit this through that other hole on the firewall and still have room. Yeah, I might be able to fit it through right here and still be able to make it down to the transmission. Maybe we'll try that first. Boy, I tell you what, that hole worked out perfect. It's, I mean, if you look, you can see it, but if you stand back, not really paying too much attention, kind of blends in with the fuel crossover, so that's cool. Because I don't know. I try to clean up the wiring, but it's hard with these with these dang newfangled technological engines to make them look good with all the wiring everywhere. But I try my best, and I think we're doing pretty all right. There's only so much you can hide without getting real silly with it. And then also all the factory chassis wiring on this thing, that most of it we're going to use, well, a good chunk of it, I should say, we're going to use. Like, boy, one of these should go to distributor, one of these should go to the starter solenoid. If I had to guess, I would think one of these two go to the starter. We'll need, obviously, the lights. That's all this. And then from here, perhaps the only thing we'll need is, I'd like to keep the wiper motor, but if it doesn't work, that's not a huge deal breaker, because I don't plan on driving this thing a ton in the rain. Anyway, we got things looking pretty decent inside now. I only have one zip tie so far, so if that tells you anything, we got a long ways we can go. Yeah, we are looking. I need to get a tool to press that plate off so I can get the snap ring out of the steering column and then change the ignition. Because old guy that I got this car from happened to lose the key for it. And I don't remember if that had a new cylinder for the trunk or not. It'd be nice if it did. So, I guess we can roll it back, double check that wiring reaches the transmission, which it should. It looked like there was a bunch that I threw down there. And then we can mark the drive shaft, and I can take that back to my place, cut it, weld it. Man, I wish I knew what this was from. I do not remember. But it's got a 4L80 Turbo 400 yoke. All right. As if by design, we had the perfect amount of room on this harness. And everything plugged right in. The turbine speed sensor. Stop it. The main harness plug and the vehicle speed sensor. All that worked out great. So now I just have these loose wires. There's a chassis ground, a constant 12 volt, I believe. And then I'm pretty sure that last one is like a brake switch. So that when you hit the brake, it unlocks the torque converter. Will you stop? We're kind of all buttoned up on the wiring for now. Like I said, there's some loose wires to connect, but everything else is looking pretty good. Everything that can be plugged in, I think, aside from this. So I think what I'm going to do now, and you might be able to tell I kind of already started it with just a quick little haze. I'm going to spray the frame and everything, the chassis, with some, like a rust barrier, and then we'll move on to the drive shaft. It's a lot easier to work on a drive shaft when you're high as hell off paint fumes. Whew. All right, let's get this drive shaft in here. I know it fits because I had it in there yesterday. That is fully bottomed out. Okay, so I actually think that when this rear end goes up, looking at the arms, it's going to go back a skosh. So I'm going to measure the center of the U-joint to the end of that, 2 1/4. So we'll add 2 1/4 from where this meets up. Right about there is where it meets it. So we'll take 2 1/4 from that. Right about there. Right about there. Alright, let me give your peepers a little bit better idea of what I was talking about. So from the center of the U-joint to where the weld is about 2 1/4. Give or take. Let's see where the drive shaft meets up, crosses with the center of the U-joint there. That's right about where this line is. And then 2 1/4 from this line is right there. So that's where we're going to cut. And then we've got close to 2 inches of stick out, so about 3 inches are still in the transmission. So if I cut on the left side of the line, it should be money. So I need to take this thing back to my place and get it cut down, re-welded, and All right, we have one shortened aluminum drive shaft. Now, I think once I start really driving the car, I'll probably have a drive shaft made. This was mostly just to test fitment and to move the car around for the time being. Obviously, this thing's not balanced. I tried cutting like just the welds so that I could pull this flange and this inner sleeve, because it comes in like about that far to keep everything square. I tried cutting just the weld so I could pull all that out. Didn't end up happening. So that sucks. That's just butt welded, so yeah, I don't trust this thing very far. But for just moving it around the yard, maybe going up and down the road, but this thing's not balanced at all. So yeah, perfect. It'll probably end up staying in the car for the rest of its life. So now I've got to figure out some U-joints, find some U-joint straps for the rear end, and then that's all done. What do you say we go test fit this thing? Just got back over to the OG shop. Got our short shaft here. Let's get this car lifted up and see how it fits.
Moment of truth.
2 1/8 inches of stick out, so we've got about 3 inches in the transmission. That's not too bad. And like I said earlier, I think once this thing sits down, the rear end will go back a little bit. So fairly productive today. Got it mostly wired up. Got a few loose wires to take care of. I got the dash back in place, hopefully permanently. I got the drive shaft shortened to at least the length we need for when I do have one made. Yeah, we're looking pretty good. But that is going to do it for today's video, so hope you guys enjoyed it. Thank you for watching. Thank you for subscribing, clicking that bell to get notifications when the videos go up. I'll see you next time.